Have you ever tried out for something like this along the way?
Yeah, I've tried out for The Voice twice.
What'd they tell you?
Behind the lights, fame, and sweet country songs, some stars were hiding secrets that surprised the world. Their private affairs and scandals ruined the image fans once loved so much. Here are the 15 country music stars whose careers fell apart because of unforgettable love scandals. Join us as we uncover who these country stars are. Number 15, Jimmie Allen. Jimmie Allen was once seen as one of the brightest new voices in country music. Rising from humble beginnings in Delaware, he built his name with heartfelt songs that climbed the charts and earned him awards, even taking home the coveted New Artist of the Year from the CMA. Fans loved his smooth voice, his story of perseverance, and the image of a devoted family man. But the shine on his career didn't last long before dark clouds appeared. Everything changed in 2023 when unbelievable accusations surfaced. His former manager came forward with a lawsuit claiming that she had been inappropriately harassed and violated by him during their professional relationship. The allegations were serious, and they didn't stop there. More claims followed, painting a picture that completely clashed with the clean, family-friendly persona Jimmie had built. For an artist who had carefully shaped his image around loyalty, respect, and hard work, these accusations sent his world spiraling. The consequences were swift. His record label suspended him, CMA Fest removed his name from the lineup, and endorsements began to vanish. Country radio stations pulled back, and what once looked like a promising career now stood on shaky ground. He was even dropped by his record label, BBR Music Group. Behind the scenes, the situation placed a heavy strain on his marriage. His wife, Alexis Gale, pregnant with their third child at the time, filed for divorce after the lawsuits became public, leaving his personal life as fractured as his professional one. Fans who once celebrated him were left torn between disbelief and disappointment. The man who sang about love and values was now fighting for his reputation in courtrooms instead of singing on big stages. And just when many thought things couldn't get more dramatic, the next name on this list proves scandals in country music never come alone, because Morgan Wallen's Controversies brought a different storm altogether. Number 14, Morgan Wallen. Morgan Wallen shot to fame with his deep voice, catchy songs, and the kind of charm that made him one of the fastest rising stars in country music. His album sales broke records, his concerts sold out, and fans couldn't get enough of him. But behind the success, there was a wild side that often got him into trouble. Nights of heavy partying, drinking, and messy behavior started to follow him like a shadow, and it wasn't long before it all boiled over into public scandal. In 2021, a video surfaced showing him using a racial slur outside his Nashville home after a night of drinking. The clip spread like wildfire, shaking both his career and his reputation. The fallout was immediate. Radio stations pulled his songs, award shows cut ties, and his record label suspended him. What should have been his golden moment turned into a nightmare. Endorsements disappeared, and his name was suddenly being discussed not for his music, but for his mistakes. His personal life didn't escape the storm either. His relationships were already strained from his late-night partying and his chaotic lifestyle, and the scandal only pushed him further into the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. For a while, it looked like he might not recover at all. But Morgan's story took a twist. Despite being shunned by much of the industry, his fans stood firmly by his side. His album sales even surged during the controversy, showing just how strong his base was. Slowly, he made his way back, releasing new music, returning to touring, and carefully rebuilding his image. Still, the stain of that scandal is still there, a reminder of how quickly it can all fall apart. And if you thought Morgan's drama was messy, the next star on this list, Jason Aldean, shows how one night of temptation can nearly ruin a career built over decades. Number 13, Jason Aldean. Jason Aldean had already carved out a reputation as one of the biggest names in modern country music. With hit after hit filling arenas and awards piled up on his shelf, he seemed to embody the perfect mix of career success and family values. But in 2012, his image took a sharp turn when photographs surfaced that changed everything. During a night out in Los Angeles, Jason was caught getting intimate with Brittany Kerr, a former American Idol contestant, even though he was still married to his high school sweetheart, Jessica Ussery. The images quickly spread across the internet, shocking fans who thought of him as a faithful family man. The story became one of the most talked about scandals in country music, and the backlash was immediate. Jason tried to patch things up by admitting his mistake and apologizing publicly, but the damage was already done. His marriage with Jessica, which had lasted more than a decade and brought 2 daughters into the world, crumbled under the weight of the betrayal. By 2013, divorce papers were filed, marking the end of what many thought was an unshakable bond. Professionally, the scandal created a split reaction. Some fans stood by him, believing everyone makes mistakes, but others were deeply disappointed and turned away. The family man image that once fueled his relatability now seemed broken, and for a time, his personal life overshadowed his music. Eventually, Jason moved forward and made his relationship with Brittany public, later marrying her and starting a new family. Yet the stain of how it all began never fully left him. It became a chapter fans could never forget, proof that even the brightest stars can fall hard when temptation takes over. And as messy as Jason's story was, the drama around LeAnn Rimes showed how a secret affair could spark a firestorm that burned even hotter. Number 12. LeAnn Rimes. She was once the golden girl of country music, winning a Grammy at just 14 and stunning the world with her powerful voice. LeAnn carried the image of a young star who had it all: talent, fame, and a wholesome reputation. But that picture-perfect image shattered in 2009 when her private life exploded into a scandal that dominated headlines. While filming the TV movie Northern Lights, LeAnn fell into a secret romance with actor Eddie Cibrian, who was her co-star at the time. The problem was that both of them were already married, LeAnn to dancer Dean Sharamet, and Eddie to model Brandi Glanville. When news of the affair broke, it spread like wildfire, and the backlash was brutal. Instead of being seen as the sweet girl who grew up in country music, she was suddenly branded as a homewrecker. Her marriage with Dean crumbled, leading to a painful and public divorce. Eddie's marriage ended too, but his ex-wife didn't hold back from sharing every ugly detail with the world, keeping the drama alive in the tabloids for years. The story wasn't just about love gone wrong. It became a scandal that defined LeAnn's name more than her music. Professionally, the fallout was harsh. Album sales slowed, critics shifted their focus from her artistry to her personal choices, and the media painted her as the villain in a love triangle that never seemed to end. Even when she later married Eddie and tried to move on, the shadow of that affair lingered, making it hard for her to rebuild the clean image she once had. Her story became a reminder of how fast adoration can turn into judgment, and if LeAnn's scandal proved how messy forbidden love can be, Sara Evans's marriage drama revealed just how quickly accusations and affairs could twist a country star's life upside down. Number 11. Sara Evans. She had built her career on heartfelt songs that painted her as one of country music's most genuine and family-oriented voices. With hits that touched on love, heartache, and faith, she carried the image of a devoted wife and mother, the kind of woman fans trusted to embody the values they held close. However, in 2006, her personal life took center stage in a way that threatened to undo years of hard work. She shocked fans by abruptly leaving Dancing with the Stars, where she had been competing, and the reasons soon became public. Sara had filed for divorce from her husband, Craig Shelsky, citing maltreatment, adultery, and troubling behavior in their marriage. What followed was a courtroom battle filled with explosive accusations from both sides. While Sara made serious claims against Craig, he fired back with damaging counterclaims, accusing her of infidelity, heavy drinking, and even having affairs with members of her band. The details were messy and impossible to ignore. For a woman who had always been seen as a picture of grace, those accusations cut deep into her carefully built image. Even though no proof was ever made public to support Craig's claims, the scandal stuck. Suddenly, gossip about her personal life was louder than the music she was releasing. Sara managed to keep her career afloat by focusing on her fans and continuing to tour, but the aura of purity that once surrounded her name had been stained. The divorce was finalized in 2007, and while she moved forward with new projects, the bitter drama lingered in the public's memory. Her story showed how fast admiration can shift when accusations fly. And if Sara's scandal proved that a divorce could derail a reputation, Billy Gilman's struggles showed how whispers and rumors could nearly stop a rising star before he even had the chance to shine. Number 10. Billy Gilman. Billy Gilman was only 11 years old when his voice took over country radio with one voice, making him one of the youngest stars in the genre. For a while, he looked like the perfect child prodigy who would grow into a superstar. But behind all the applause, the spotlight also came with whispers that clouded his teenage years. As he grew older, the music industry was not kind. Rumors swirled about his private life, and talk of affairs and inappropriate behavior began to overshadow the talent that first put him on stage. At a time when the country music scene wasn't very open about intimacy, the gossip carried a heavy weight. His name became tied more to scandal and speculation than to the music he was working so hard to make. The rumors not only slowed his career, but also took a toll on his personal world. For someone who started out as the sweet-faced boy with a golden voice, Being dragged into conversations about his intimate life and controversy was overwhelming. The pressure and judgment pushed him into a corner, and many in the industry kept their distance. His family had to watch as the career that had lifted him so high seemed to collapse under the force of scandal and assumptions. Still, years later, Billy stepped back into the spotlight, but this time on his own terms. He came out as gay, faced the very thing people once whispered about, and built a second chance for himself. His voice remained powerful, but the journey to reclaim respect had been long and painful. And just when you think Billy's story couldn't get more complicated, the next star on this list proves that country scandals don't always come from whispers. Number 9. Earl Thomas Conley. Earl Thomas Conley was once called the thinking man's country singer because his songs carried so much emotion and depth. In the 1980s, he ruled the charts with romantic ballads that seemed to pour straight from the heart. But while his music painted him as the voice of love and devotion, his personal life told a very different story. Behind the scenes, he was often caught up in whispers of unfaithfulness. Allegations of affairs and broken promises began to surface, and for a man whose entire image was built on love songs, that clash was impossible to ignore. The rumors of infidelity spread quickly, and they didn't just stay in the tabloids. Fans who once believed in the sincerity of his ballads began to question whether the man behind the microphone lived the same values he sang about. The disconnect hurt his reputation and cast a shadow over his artistry. His family life was not spared either. The strain of scandal and the lifestyle that followed chipped away at his personal relationships, leaving more chaos than stability. As the years went on, these issues combined with other struggles, including creative burnout and health battles, slowed his career momentum. The man who once had 18 #1 hits seemed to fade from the spotlight, and the glow of his stardom dimmed. What should have been a steady climb through country history was instead interrupted by personal choices that changed the way people saw him. And just as Conley's story shows how quickly personal choices can undo years of hard work, the next scandal on this list takes things to another level. Number 8. Toby Keith. Toby Keith carved out his place in country music with anthems that celebrated small towns, hard work, and family pride. For years, he carried the image of a straight-talking, patriotic family man whose songs spoke directly to ordinary people. But while his career was soaring on stage, the stories that followed him off stage were far less flattering. Whispers of extramarital flings and questionable relationships during tours began to swirl around his name, and they quickly clashed with the clean, dependable legacy he had worked so hard to build. These rumors painted a very different picture of the star fans thought they knew. The gossip about late-night encounters and affairs made headlines, and they didn't just damage his reputation, they shook the foundation of his family life. His wife, who had stood beside him long before the fame, became entangled in the fallout of speculation. Even though much of the talk was never fully proven, the constant cloud of suspicion was enough to change how many looked at him. For someone who had built his brand on being relatable and trustworthy, that disconnect hurt deeply. The effect on his career was hard to ignore. Critics began focusing less on his music and more on the noise surrounding his private life. The controversies chipped away at the loyalty of certain fans, especially those who had admired him for his wholesome image. While his strong catalog of hits and his larger-than-life personality kept him on the charts, the shadow of scandal followed him, leaving scars that no song could fully erase. However, just as Toby Keith's story shows how damaging whispers of infidelity can be, the next case turns up the volume even more. Number 7. Dwight Yoakam. Dwight Yoakam built a reputation as one of the most innovative voices in country music, blending honky-tonk tradition with a modern edge that set him apart. His unique style and undeniable talent earned him respect, but at the same time, his life off-stage often stole the spotlight. With his rugged charm and movie star looks, Yoakam was considered a romantic idol, and his name was constantly tied to high-profile romances, rumored affairs, and whispered betrayals. The more his love life played out in headlines, the harder it became for audiences to separate the man from the gossip. Stories about his flings and alleged infidelities became part of his image, but not in a flattering way. While some fans were fascinated by the drama, others began to see it as proof that his personal life was out of control. His relationships with famous women only fueled the fire, keeping tabloids busy while undermining the credibility of his music. The same qualities that made him attractive to the public turned into distractions when the focus shifted away from his artistry and onto his bedroom. The scandals left their mark on his personal relationships too. Partners felt the weight of constant media attention and the sting of rumors. making it harder for him to maintain stability behind closed doors. For an artist whose songs often carried themes of heartbreak and passion, the blurred lines between his lyrics and real life only added to the scrutiny. As his reputation grew more complicated, the industry began to treat him less as a groundbreaking musician and more as a headline magnet. That shift in perception slowed down his momentum at key moments in his career. And while Yoakam's name still carries influence, his story shows how scandal can rewrite even the brightest legacy. Number 6. Hank Williams Jr. Hank Williams Jr. grew up with the heavy weight of carrying his father's legendary name, and from early on, he proved he had the talent to carve his own space in country music. His songs mixed southern rock and outlaw country, and his bold personality made him a star who stood apart from tradition. But with fame came chaos, and his private life soon became just as talked about as his music. His name became linked to wild nights, substances, heavy drinking, and a string of women who kept his personal life tangled in drama. Infidelity rumors followed him for years, painting a picture of a man who lived recklessly and cared little about the consequences. What might have seemed like harmless fun at first began to weigh heavily on his family. Relationships crumbled under the pressure, and the trust broken in his personal life spilled into how fans and critics saw him. The scandals hit at a time when mainstream acceptance was within his reach. But instead of being embraced as a polished star, he became marked as the rebel who couldn't separate his private temptations from his public image. The combination of affairs, substance use, and a reputation for being uncontrollable turned his brand from admired to problematic. Even as his music stayed popular with loyal fans, the mainstream industry pulled back, leaving him outside the clean-cut image Nashville wanted to project. For Hank Jr., the very behavior that gave him an outlaw reputation also locked him out of opportunities that could have taken him even further. But as messy as Hank Jr.'s scandals were, the surprising collapse of the next country star is something else. Number 5. Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks was long seen as the untouchable superstar of country music, a man whose records sold in the tens of millions and whose name carried a golden glow in the industry. His career was built on heartfelt songs, electrifying performances, and the image of a family-loving, all-American artist. That's why the shock was so heavy in 2024 when disturbing accusations pulled him into a storm that few could have imagined. A longtime hairstylist and makeup artist who had worked closely with him came forward with a lawsuit, accusing Brooks of years of inappropriate conduct. The allegations painted a dark picture: claims of molestation during a work trip, groping in private settings, and repeated unwanted behavior that allegedly stretched over time. The accusations were devastating because they clashed so harshly with the image he had carefully carried for decades. Brooks denied the claims, calling them false and financially motivated, but the mere existence of such detailed allegations was enough to throw his name into a frenzy of headlines. The fallout was swift. Fans who had once defended him fiercely were divided, unsure of what to believe. His family was suddenly pulled into the harsh spotlight, forced to live under whispers and speculation that had nothing to do with his music. For a man who had long presented himself as the face of clean country values, the accusations carved a painful mark. Industry circles went dry, endorsements grew cold, and instead of celebrating his songs, the public was dissecting the lawsuit line by line. Even for a legend like Brooks, the scandal showed how fragile a reputation can be. Number 4. Kenny Chesney. Kenny Chesney was already a powerhouse in country music when his love life suddenly became the headline instead of his songs. In 2005, he shocked fans by marrying Hollywood actress Renee Zellweger in a small, dreamy beach wedding. It looked like a fairy tale at first, but within just a few months, the marriage was over, and the annulment papers brought a storm of gossip that Kenny couldn't outrun. The annulment cited fraud as the reason, and that single word set off endless speculation. Rumors swirled that Kenny had been hiding something, with whispers of secret affairs and infidelity overshadowing everything else. Fans who once only saw him as the carefree island-loving singer now questioned what was really going on behind the scenes. Some even wondered if the quick romance had been built on lies from the start. For Kenny, the scandal was brutal. Instead of being celebrated for his music, tabloids dissected every move he made. The whispers reached his family too, dragging his personal world into the spotlight in ways he never wanted. The heartbreak of a short-lived marriage already carried its own weight, but the rumors of betrayal made it really worse. painting him as someone who couldn't live up to the love songs he sang. While Kenny eventually weathered the storm and reclaimed his place on stage, there was no denying the dent it left in his reputation. For a time, it seemed the scandal mattered more than the music, and fans were left trying to separate the man from the rumors. Number 3. Keith Urban. Keith Urban built his name as one of the brightest stars in country music, with his smooth voice, heartfelt lyrics, and reputation as a talented guitarist. Long before he became known as Nicole Kidman's husband, he was already adored by fans for his ability to mix traditional country with modern flair. But behind the spotlight, whispers of a scandal began to follow him, and those whispers would grow louder just as his personal life seemed to be settling down. During his engagement to Nicole Kidman, a model named Amanda Wyatt stepped into the picture with a claim that shook up his otherwise glowing image. She alleged that she and Keith had been romantically involved for a long period of time, even while he was preparing to marry Nicole. The idea that such a betrayal could happen at such an important time really surprised the media. Headlines were quick to spread, and suddenly Keith wasn't just being talked about for his music, but for the messy details of his private life. The story caught on quickly because it painted a picture of a man living two lives, one as the rising country icon devoted to Nicole, and another tangled in rumors of infidelity. Fans, who often connected Keith with his heartfelt love songs, couldn't help but feel conflicted. Yet Nicole stood firmly by his side, refusing to let the accusations tear them apart. Still, the damage to Keith's image was clear. For someone who had always tried to balance his career with his personal struggles, including battles with addiction, the scandal added yet another layer of pressure. The talk didn't erase his talent, but it cast a shadow over his perfect family man image. And just when fans thought the scandals in country music couldn't get more dramatic, another star faced a storm that almost toppled everything he worked for. Number 2. Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson's music has always carried a voice full of heart, honesty, and soul, making him one of country music's most celebrated legends. But behind that warm voice and outlaw charm, his personal life often became just as talked about as his songs. Throughout his many marriages, Willie was repeatedly caught up in scandals surrounding his love life. He openly admitted that being faithful was never his strong point, and that weakness led to one headline after another. Over the years, affairs outside of marriage became part of his story, and the press never let him forget it. One of the most unforgettable moments came when his wife at the time, Shirley Colley, discovered Willie had fathered a child with another woman. She didn't find out in a private conversation. She actually received the hospital bill in the mail. That single moment exposed everything, tearing his marriage apart and putting his private mistakes in the public eye. These revelations created waves not only in his relationships, but also in his family life. Several of his marriages ended in heartbreak because of infidelity, leaving behind scars for both his partners and his children. The scandals may not have completely destroyed his career. After all, his talent and legendary status kept him on stage, but they chipped away at the image of a humble storyteller that fans once held. Instead of being remembered only for his songs, his personal life became gossip material, showing how even an icon wasn't untouchable when it came to scandal. The mix of admiration for his artistry and curiosity about his messy personal life kept his name alive in tabloids for years. While Willie somehow carried on singing, another country star on this list wasn't as lucky. Number 1, Merle Haggard. Merle Haggard was never just another country singer. He lived the very life his songs described. Known as the poet of the common man, his music often spoke about heartache, rebellion, and survival. But behind that stage presence was a private life full of drama that often mirrored the stormy lyrics he sang. His personal relationships were tangled with affairs, broken vows, and whispers of secret romances that kept fans and tabloids lively for decades. He married 5 times, and each union seemed to carry its own share of heartbreak. Rumors often linked him to fellow singers, which added even more spice to his outlaw image. While his songs topped charts and won him Grammys, behind the spotlight, his marriages crumbled under the weight of cheating allegations and emotional clashes. His relationship with Bonnie Owens, who was also a singer, brought music magic, but also tension, as whispers suggested he wasn't always faithful. Later, marriages ended just as stormily, with infidelity being a shadow he could never fully escape. These scandals hurt his family life the most. Children grew up watching their father's name dragged through headlines, and wives struggled with the reality of a man who was celebrated by the world but couldn't hold steady at home. At the same time, those very scandals deepened his outlaw mystique in the public eye. Fans felt his raw pain and mistakes in his songs, and that made him relatable, even as it chipped away at his image as a dependable family man. Still, Merle managed to turn his chaos into art. but not without leaving scars on those closest to him. Now, what do you think about all these country stars? Do you think that they can amend their wrongs again? Let's hear from you in the comments. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.